December 1900. Three men stood duty at the loneliest lighthouse in Scotland. They were experienced keepers, family men. They'd weathered storms before. In 2 weeks, they would vanish without a trace. And 125 years later, we still don't know how. James Ducat, age 43. Principal keeper. 20 years of lighthouse experience. A father. His wife Annie and 4 children waited for him in Stornoway. He'd promised to be home for Christmas. He would write them every week. Cheerful letters about the weather, the seabirds, the endless ocean. Thomas Marshall, age 40. Second assistant keeper. Former sailor, turned lighthouse man. His wife Mary waited in Port William with their children. Thomas was meticulous. Every rope coiled perfectly, every brass fitting polished. The kind of man you'd trust with your life. The kind who didn't make mistakes. Donald McArthur, age 40. First assistant keeper. The newest to the station. This was only his first shift at Flannan Isles. His wife had begged him not to take the posting. Something about that place, she'd said. But lighthouse work paid well, and they had mouths to feed. He'd promised to return safe. He always had before. December 7th, 1900. The relief ship Hesperus delivered the 3 men to Flannan Isles. The outgoing keepers looked relieved. Happy to leave this remote rock. Strange place, one muttered. You'll see. But Ducat, Marshall, and McArthur were professionals. They'd kept lights burning through worse. Lighthouse keeping was monotonous but crucial. Every 4 hours, wind the clockwork mechanism that rotated the light. Polish the lens. Log the weather. Maintain the oil. Cook. Clean. Sleep when you could. On a remote island, these 3 men were completely alone. 46 steps to the light room. Nowhere else to go. Flannan Isles, 20 miles west of the Outer Hebrides. 7 uninhabited islands. Barren rock and grass, seabirds and sheep. The locals called them the 7 Hunters. Ancient folklore warned of strange lights seen at night, ships avoiding the waters, old stories of disappearances. Superstition, the keepers would have said. Just stories. The first week passed without incident. Ducat wrote his cheerful letters. All well here. Marshall kept the mechanisms perfect. McArthur adapted to the isolation. They ate together, worked in shifts, kept the light burning. 46 steps up, 46 steps down. Day after day. And then came December 15th. December 15th. A storm hit. Not unusual. The Atlantic throws tantrums. But this one was violent. Waves the height of buildings. Wind that could lift a man off his feet. The keepers would have secured everything, closed the shutters, stayed inside. Standard procedure. They'd weathered worse storms. This one should have been routine. December 15th, 9 a.m. The last entry in the lighthouse log. Written in Thomas Marshall's precise hand. Storm. Sea lashed to fury. Never seen such a storm. Ducat irritable. That was it. The last words anyone would ever write at Flannan Isles Lighthouse. The last proof they were alive. For the next 10 days, nothing. No more log entries. No signals. But the light kept burning. Ships passing at night saw it rotating, faithful as always. Someone was maintaining it. Or so everyone assumed. But on shore, families were starting to worry. No signals. No communication. Just that light, turning in the dark. Annie Ducat hadn't received her weekly letter. Mary Marshall heard nothing. McArthur's wife felt the silence like a weight. Christmas came. The keepers should have been relieved by now. Rotation day was December 20th. But the relief ship, the Hesperus, couldn't land. Weather too rough. They'd wait for Boxing Day. December 26, 1900. Boxing Day. The storm finally broke. The Hesperus could land. Joseph Moore, the relief keeper assigned to replace one of the men, prepared to go ashore. 46 steps to climb. Routine rotation. Except nothing about what he was about to find was routine. Moore rowed ashore. Standard procedure, the keepers should have been waiting at the landing. They always were. Eager for supplies, for company, for news. But the landing was empty. No one there. Moore called out. His voice echoed off the rocks. No answer. Just the seabirds and the wind. Moore climbed the path to the lighthouse. Each step heavier than the last. The door was closed but not locked. Unusual. The keepers always kept it locked when all were inside. He pushed it open. Hello? The darkness inside swallowed his voice. He stepped in. And found silence. The kitchen. A meal half-eaten on the table. Chairs pushed back, as if the men had stood up suddenly. The clock on the wall had stopped. The fire was out, stone cold. And beside the hearth, 2 oilskins missing from their hooks. Only 2. The third hung there, untouched. Upstairs. The bunks. 2 beds neatly made. Not slept in. 1 bed unmade, sheets twisted as if someone had just gotten up. The logbook, open to December 15th, 9 days ago. Nothing since. No explanation. No goodbye. Just nothing. Moore climbed the 46 steps to the light room. His legs felt like lead. Each step an effort. The light itself was out. Oil exhausted. The lens clean, the mechanism wound. Someone had maintained it. Recently. But the men were gone. Joseph Moore ran. Down the 46 steps, through the kitchen, out the door. He ran to the landing shouting for the boat crew. They're gone. All 3, gone. The crew came ashore. Searched every inch. The entire island. Barely half a mile across. There was nowhere to hide. 3 men. Vanished. Without a trace. The report was sent by signal that night. 3 keepers missing. No signs of struggle. No explanation. The Northern Lighthouse Board launched an investigation. Captain Harvey arrived 2 days later. What he found made no sense. The west landing, where supplies were stored, was destroyed. Iron railings bent. A toolbox weighing over 100 pounds thrown 40 feet inland. A massive stone block, over a ton, displaced from its position. Something violent had happened. But when? The logbook said nothing. And none of this damage was visible from the east landing where the men usually worked. So what happened? That's the question that has haunted us for 125 years. Captain Harvey's official report tried to make sense of the impossible. The clock had stopped. The fire was out. 2 oilskins were missing, Marshall's and Ducat's. McArthur's remained. This suggested 2 men went outside while 1 stayed in. But why? And what happened to them? Here's the timeline problem. The last log entry, December 15th, 9 a.m. Storm. Sea lashed to fury. But ships passing on December 16th, 17th, and 18th all reported the lighthouse burning. Someone was tending it. For at least 3 days after that final entry. Who? And why did they stop writing in the log? Theory 1, a rogue wave. The west landing was destroyed. Maybe Ducat and Marshall went to secure equipment during the storm. A massive wave, 60, 70 feet, swept them away. McArthur saw it happen, ran out without his oilskin to help. Another wave took him too. It's plausible. Except for one problem. The problem, experienced lighthouse keepers never both go to the same landing. It's the first rule. One always stays inside in case of emergency. Ducat had 20 years' experience. He would never have broken protocol. And the East Landing, where they normally worked, was completely undamaged. Why were they at the West Landing at all? Theory 2, murder-suicide. The log mentioned Ducat irritable. Maybe isolation drove someone mad. Maybe McArthur, nervous, new to the station, snapped. Killed Ducat and Marshall, threw their bodies into the sea, then jumped himself. It's dark. But it's happened before on isolated lighthouses. Except the evidence doesn't support it. No signs of struggle. None. No blood, no damaged furniture, no weapons. The kitchen showed a calm departure. Meal left but no violence. And McArthur was the least experienced. How would he overpower two veteran keepers simultaneously? It doesn't add up. Theory 3, a tragic accident. Maybe one keeper fell. Slipped on wet rocks. The others rushed to help without thinking. Both swept away trying to rescue their friend. It's noble. It's human. Keepers were brothers. You don't leave a man behind. Except McArthur's oilskin was still inside. Would he really run into a storm without it? The oilskin. This detail haunted investigators. In December. In Scotland. In a storm. You don't go outside without your oilskin. It's suicide. The cold alone would kill you in minutes. Yet McArthur's hung on its hook, dry and used. Every theory has to explain that oilskin. And none do. Theory 4, foul play. Pirates. Smugglers. Someone came to the island, took them in. But why? There was no treasure at Flannan Isles. No valuables. And how would attackers even reach the island in that storm? The Hesperus couldn't land for days. No other ship could have. And there was no evidence of any other vessel. And then there's the logbook. Why did the entry stop on December 15th? Ships saw the light burning for days after. Someone was winding the mechanism. Maintaining the oil. Keeping the beacon lit. But no one wrote in the log. Were they too panicked? Too injured? Or was someone else operating the lighthouse? Someone who didn't know they should write in the log? And then there's the theory no official report mentioned. Locals had always said the Flannan Isles were cursed. Strange lights at night, not from the lighthouse. Voices in the wind. Sheep found with their throats cut, arranged in patterns. Old Celtic legends spoke of the phantoms of the seven hunters. Just superstition. Probably. But the locals won't go there. Not even now. Some claimed a sea serpent. Ridiculous, right? Except Flannan Isles are deep water. Very deep. The Atlantic Trench passes close by. Waters descending thousands of feet. In 1900, most ocean life was still unknown. Giant squid were considered myth until a carcass washed up in 1875. We still don't know everything down there. But a sea monster? It's fantasy. Probably. Modern investigators using historical weather data found something interesting. On December 12th, 3 days before the last log entry, a massive storm hit. Bigger than the December 15th storm. Waves documented at over 80 feet. Could the men have gone out during that storm and more misread the dates? Or did something happen earlier than we thought? But that creates more questions. If they vanished on December 12th, who wrote the December 15th log entry? Who kept the light burning for days after? The handwriting was definitely Thomas Marshall's. He was there on the 15th. Or was he? Could Moore have misread the date in the chaos of discovery? Every answer creates new questions. The lighthouse was restaffed within weeks. New keepers came. They lasted 3 days. One refused to sleep inside. Claimed he heard voices calling names. Footsteps on the stairs. All 3. Counting to 46. The keepers who replaced them reported the same. Eventually, they found keepers who stayed. But even they admitted something felt wrong at Flannan Isles. 1971, the lighthouse was finally automated. No more keepers. Machines took over. The light still burns, but no one lives there. The lighthouse stands empty, watching the ocean that took 3 men and gave no answers. 46 steps no one climbs anymore. A kitchen where ghosts might still sit at an unfinished meal. You can visit Flannan Isles, tour boats go in summer. Tourists climb the 46 steps, stand in the kitchen, imagine 3 men vanishing. But no one stays the night. The tour guides won't either. We don't like being there at dusk, one said. The way the wind sounds, like it's calling names. Annie Ducat never remarried. She raised 4 children alone, always believing James would be found. He never was. Mary Marshall wore black for the rest of her life. 43 years. MacArthur's wife moved away, couldn't bear being near the sea. 3 families destroyed. No bodies to bury. No closure. Just questions. Forever. In 1912, poet Wilfred Wilson Gibson wrote Flannan Isle. He imagined the discovery. 3 men alive on Flannan Isle, who thought on 3 men dead. The poem became famous. But it got the details wrong. Said the fire was still burning, the food still warm. It wasn't. But the poem captured something true, the horror of finding no answers. Flannan Isles isn't alone. 1828, Small's Lighthouse, Wales. Keeper went mad after his partner died. 1801, Eddystone Lighthouse. 3 keepers found dead, no explanation. 1947, Eileen Moore. That's Flannan Isles again. Different keepers, same reports, voices, footsteps, names being called. Lighthouses are lonely places. And lonely places collect mysteries. Modern psychology has a term, isolation psychosis. Confined spaces, limited social contact, monotonous routine, no escape. The mind starts creating stimuli. Voices, presences, paranoia. Submariners experience it. Antarctic researchers experience it. Lighthouse keepers definitely experienced it. Could that explain anything? Maybe. Or maybe it makes the mystery worse. So what really happened? The most likely explanation, the men went to the West Landing on December 12th during the massive storm. Maybe to secure damaged equipment. A rogue wave took 2. The third, panicked, forgot his oilskin, ran to help. Another wave. All 3 gone in seconds. The logs were misdated. It's tragic. It's simple. It's believable. Except it doesn't explain the log being maintained for days after. Except it doesn't explain MacArthur's dry oilskin. Except experienced keepers wouldn't both go to the dangerous landing. Except the meal left half-eaten suggests sudden departure, not planned equipment check. The best explanation still has holes. And those holes haunt us. The bodies were never found. Not one. The Atlantic should have returned something. The ocean always gives back eventually. Bodies. Clothes. Something. But nothing. Ever. Some say the depth. The trench nearby goes down 3,000 feet. Bodies could sink there and never surface. Or maybe they did surface, miles away, unidentified. Or maybe, this is where the rational explanation ends. And the mystery begins again. Or maybe it happened completely differently. Maybe on December 12th, not the 15th. Maybe all 3 went out together. Protocol be damned in a true emergency. Maybe something else entirely. Something we haven't thought of. Something that explains the oilskin and the timing and the logs. We don't know. That's the answer. We don't know. After 125 years of investigation, the truest thing we can say is, we don't know. The Flannan Isles is the perfect mystery. Remote location. Experienced men. No witnesses. No bodies. Just enough evidence to build theories. Just enough gaps to make them all questionable. It's a Rorschach test. What you believe happened says more about you than about what actually happened. Do you believe in the rational explanation? The supernatural? The unknown? Your answer reveals your worldview. But here's why it really endures. It's not about the mystery. It's about the men. James Ducat wrote letters to his wife every week. Thomas Marshall polished brass that didn't need polishing. Donald McArthur promised to come home safe. They were real. They had families. They had routines. They had lives. And then they didn't. That's not a mystery. That's a tragedy. And tragedies demand we remember. And it could happen today. Different technology, same ocean. In 2014, Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 vanished with 239 people. We have satellites. Radar. GPS. Still missing. In 2017, the submarine ARA San Juan disappeared with 44 crew. Gone. The world is still big enough to swallow us. The ocean still keeps secrets. Flannan Isles reminds us, we're not as safe as we think. We're not as found as we believe. The Ducat family. The Marshall family. The McArthur family. They never got closure. Annie Ducat died in 1943, never knowing. Mary Marshall wore black until 1944. 43 years of mourning. The children grew up fatherless. The grandchildren grew up with a ghost story instead of a grandfather. Tragedy doesn't end when the person dies. It echoes through generations. That's still happening. Descendants are alive today, still wondering. Lighthouse keepers worldwide know this story. It's their nightmare. The thing they don't talk about but think about. Every time they climb the stairs in a storm. Every time they secure the shutters alone. Every time they count the days until relief. Flannan Isles is a memorial. A warning. A reminder of the price of the light. Hundreds of keepers died keeping lights burning. These three are just the most mysterious. The story won't die. Doctor Who did an episode. The Wipers Times mentioned it. Dozens of books. Genesis wrote a song. Films have been made. Podcasts dedicated episodes. It's in video games. On TikTok. Each generation rediscovers it. Reinterprets it. Makes it their own. The mystery is immortal now. More famous than the men ever were in life. Is that fair? Maybe not. But it keeps their names alive. Ducat. Marshall. McArthur. Not forgotten. We project onto Flannan Isles. Our fears. Our hopes. Our beliefs about the world. If you believe in rational explanations, it was a wave. If you believe in human error, it was panic. If you believe in the supernatural, it was something else. If you believe in unknowable mysteries, it's proof the universe keeps secrets. Everyone finds what they're looking for. That's not about Flannan Isles. That's about us. 5,000 people visit Flannan Isles every year now. They take the tour boat. They climb the 46 steps. They stand in the kitchen. They take photos. Some are respectful. Some are thrill seekers. Some are descendants. Some are just curious. But they all feel it. The weight of unanswered questions. The presence of absence. 3 men lived here. 3 men died here. Probably. Maybe. We think. And that uncertainty is what draws us. Maybe we need mysteries. In an age where everything is explained, photographed, documented, shared, mysteries feel rare. Valuable. Sacred, even. Flannan Isles is proof that some things can't be solved. Can't be known. Can't be reduced to data. That's terrifying. But it's also reassuring. The world is still bigger than our understanding. The ocean still has the last word. Maybe that's as it should be. There's a memorial now. On the island. 3 names. 3 dates, December 15th, 1900. Lost at sea. That's all it says. Because that's all we know. Visitors leave coins. Flowers, in summer. Notes, not forgotten. Rest in peace. We remember. People who never knew them. Never met them. But feel connected. Tragedy creates community across time. We mourn together. Even a century later. The light still burns. Automated now. Solar powered. No human hand needed. But it burns. Rotating. Warning. Saving lives they'll never meet. The light Ducat, Marshall, and MacArthur died protecting. Still burning. That's their legacy. Not the mystery. The light. Still turning. Still faithful. Still doing the work. And in that light, maybe, there's an answer. Not to what happened, but to what mattered. The question everyone asks, would I have survived? Would I have stayed inside when my mates were in danger? Would I have grabbed my oilskin? Would I have been more careful? The answer is, you don't know. None of us know. Until we're there, isolated, exhausted, facing a split-second choice, we don't know what we'd do. Maybe that's the most honest answer to any question about Flannan Isles. We don't know. 125 years. 5 generations. 2 world wars. The telephone, the internet, space travel, all came after. The world changed completely. But Flannan Isles didn't. Same questions. Same silence. Same ocean. Same mystery. In another 125 years, people will still wonder. We'll still visit. We'll still ask, what happened? The lighthouse will still be there. The ocean will still be there. The answer won't. In the end, you choose what to believe. A wave took them. Something stranger took them. They're still there somehow. They left and we just can't find them. There's evidence for all of it. There's problems with all of it. The truth is probably simple. Tragically simple. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's exactly as strange as it seems. You choose. That's the power of mystery. And the burden. Some questions don't have answers. That's not failure. That's reality. We want closure. We want logic. We want everything explained. But the universe doesn't owe us that. Sometimes people vanish. Sometimes we never know why. Sometimes the ocean wins. And we have to live with not knowing. That's hard. Maybe that's the real mystery. Not what happened to them, but how we live with never knowing. They gave their lives keeping a light burning so ships wouldn't wreck. That was the job. Save lives you'll never meet. Protect people who'll never know your name. They did that job until the end. However that end came. The light kept burning. Ships stayed safe. That's what they gave. That's what we received. Countless lives saved by the light they maintained. That's not a mystery. That's a fact. And it's enough. To Annie Ducat, who waited every week for a letter that never came. To Mary Marshall, who wore black for 43 years. To Mrs. MacArthur, who couldn't bear to live near the ocean after. To their children, who grew up asking where Papa was. To all who loved them, they're not forgotten. This story, imperfect as it is, keeps them remembered. That's all we can offer. But maybe it's something. To be remembered. To still matter. A century later. 46 steps. More counted them. Every keeper after counted them. Tourists count them. We all count them. 43, 44, 45, 46. Why do we count? Because they counted. Because it's a ritual. Because it connects us to them. Every step they climbed, we climb. Every breath they took on that stair, we take. 46 steps linking past to present. That's not supernatural. That's human. We walk where they walked. We touch what they touched. We remember. The wind still sounds like voices. Everyone says so. Not ghosts. Just acoustics. The way wind moves through stone. Through gaps in shutters. Around towers. It sounds like words. Like names. Ducat. Marshall. McArthur. Or maybe it's just wind. And we hear what we need to hear. What we fear to hear. What we hope to hear. The wind doesn't care. It blows. We listen. And we wonder. What endures? Not the truth. We don't have that. Not the answers. They're gone. What endures is the question. The wondering. The 3 names. The 46 steps. The ocean that keeps its secrets. The mystery that refuses to die. That's what lasts. Not solutions. Questions. The best mysteries don't get solved. They get remembered. And Flannan Isles will be remembered. Long after we're all gone. The questions will remain. This is a story about Flannan Isles. Not the story. Others have told it differently. We'll tell it differently. Each generation adds to it. Changes it. Makes it their own. That's how stories work. They evolve. They grow. They outlive the facts. Maybe in 2100, they'll tell it differently again. New theories. New evidence. Or maybe the same mystery, just new voices. That's okay. The story isn't ours to own. It belongs to them. To the 3 men. We're just borrowing it. Telling it for now. Why are you listening to this? Why does Flannan Isles matter to you? You didn't know them. You'll never visit. So why care? Maybe because it could be you. You climb stairs every day. You go to work. You make promises to come home. And most days, you do. But sometimes, rarely, but sometimes, people don't. And we want to know why. Because if we understand what happened to them, maybe we can prevent it happening to us. Except we can't. That's the truth we avoid. It could happen. Anytime. Anyone. We just don't want to believe it. The ocean doesn't care about your story. Doesn't care about justice or injustice. Doesn't care about closure or questions. The ocean does what oceans do. It waves. It crashes. It takes. It's been doing this for billions of years. Flannan Isles is 3 seconds in the ocean's life. Less than a blink. We make it mean something. We create the story. The ocean just is. Maybe that's the most honest thing we can say. The ocean is indifferent. We are not. That's the difference. That's why it matters. What do we owe them? The truth would be nice. But we can't give that. Justice? They're beyond that. What we can give, remembrance. Respect. Not turning their tragedy into mere entertainment. Telling their story, yes. But telling it right. Remembering they were people. That their families still grieve. That mystery is compelling, but death is real. We owe them that much. To care. Even if we never knew them. Especially because we never knew them. So here's the question I leave you with. Not what happened to them. You've heard the theories. You'll choose what you believe. The real question is, what would you do? If you heard the crash. If your friends went outside. If you had 5 seconds to decide, stay safe or go help. What would you do? You think you know. But you don't. Not until you're there. Counting those 46 steps. Hearing the storm. Facing the choice. Would you survive? Would you be brave? Would you be remembered? We don't know. And that's terrifying. So here's the question I leave you with. Not what happened to them. You've heard the theories. You'll choose what you believe. The real question is, what would you do? If you heard the crash. If your friends went outside. If you had 5 seconds to decide, stay safe or go help. What would you do? You think you know. But you don't. Not until you're there. Counting those 46 steps. Hearing the storm. Facing the choice. Would you survive? Would you be brave? Would you be remembered? We don't know. And that's terrifying. Every December 26th, people visit the memorial. Leave coins. Say the names. It's become a ritual. Boxing Day. The day more discovered them gone. The day the mystery began. People stand at the West Landing. Imagine the wave. Count the 46 steps. Touch the stone they touched. It's pilgrimage. For people who never met them. Mourning people we never knew. That's strange. But maybe it's beautiful. Maybe remembering strangers is what makes us human. Lighthouse keepers had a prayer. Not official. But passed down. Keep the light burning. Protect those you'll never meet. Come home safe to those who wait. Simple. Ducat, Marshall, and MacArthur kept 2 of those 3. The light burned. Ships were saved. They didn't come home. 2 out of 3. Is that enough? Their families would say no. The sailors who lived would say yes. There's no right answer. Just the weight of duty. And the price they paid. Mystery gives us something solutions can't. It gives us wonder. Possibility. The chance to imagine. If we knew exactly what happened, wave at 3:47 p.m., bodies at depth 2,000 feet, case closed, would we still care? Or is the not knowing what makes us care? Maybe mystery is a gift. Not a problem to solve, but a story to carry. A question that makes us think. A tragedy that makes us human. Maybe we should be grateful we don't know. Because knowing would make it ordinary. And they deserve better than ordinary. And so we return. Again and again. To the lighthouse. To the 46 steps. To the 3 names. To the question. Every generation rediscovers them. Retells their story. Wonders what happened. And in that wondering, keeps them alive. Not just the mystery. Them. James. Thomas. Donald. 3 men who lived. Who worked. Who tried. Who failed. Who died. Who are remembered. That's immortality. Not the mystery. The memory. And maybe that's enough. The light still burns. Automated. Solar powered. No human hand needed. But it burns. Rotating. Warning. Saving lives they'll never meet. The light Ducat, Marshall, and MacArthur died protecting. Still burning. That's their legacy. Not the mystery. The light. Still turning. Still faithful. Still doing the work. And in that light, maybe, there's an answer. Not to what happened. But to what mattered. They kept the light burning. That's what they did. That's who they were. That's enough. James Ducat. Thomas Marshall. Donald McArthur. 3 lighthouse keepers. Flannan Isles, Scotland. December 1900. Missing. Presumed lost at sea. Never found. Never explained. Never forgotten. Remember their names. Not because it solves anything, but because they were real. They lived. They mattered. They still matter. And maybe that's the only answer that counts. This documentary is dedicated to the families of James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald McArthur, and to all lighthouse keepers who kept the lights burning so others might come home safe.